My name is Dr. Juanita Lewis. I am the CEO and founder of Ghana's first and only shared commercial kitchen space and co-working space called Crescendo Foods. We offer an FDA commercial kitchen that has 2 workstations for rising food entrepreneurs, and we also offer co-working as well as technical assistance for food professionals and creatives. So my background is I'm a food chemist by training. I have my bachelor's and my master's are in chemistry, but my PhD is in food science. And so how I got introduced to food science was doing a college research project and decided to go ahead and switch gears from becoming a pediatric neurosurgeon to becoming a food scientist, in particular a food chemist. I first came to Ghana in 2017 when I was working for the U.S. Department of State, working on agricultural policy, and I was actually looking at how African women are affected by the biotechnology policies that were put in place by their respective countries. And so after that particular time working in the U.S. government, I was given the opportunity to come back in 2018 to work at U.S. Embassy Accra. It was such an amazing experience. I got a chance to really work firsthand with entrepreneurs, especially in the food space. And so, as they say, the rest is history. After living in Ghana for a few months in 2018, I decided to relocate in 2020 and started Crescendo Foods in 2021. And we're here now in our brick and mortar space in West Legon that's been open since 2023. Is that Crescendo Foods operates as a food hub. It's a nonprofit, and what we do is that we are providing support for rising food businesses that do not have the capital to be able to put money down to either start a kitchen or to even scale up. And so what crescendo means, if you know music theory, it means to gradually get louder, to gradually scale. So we're helping these businesses that usually operate in their houses to be able to come step out of it, to be able to take away another barrier, which is FDA registration when it comes to your venue, and then be able to help them scale up by serving as consultants, providing technical assistance such as workshops that's on food safety, food photography, exporting, importing, food labeling, so on and so forth. And be able to help them actually become, we always say to fail wisely, right? Fail with success, because a lot of the times when we do that, we don't do it in the community setting. So the goal that we try to achieve here at Crescendo is, one, not only helping rising entrepreneurs to be able to expand their reach, but to also create a community. And of course, it's about inclusiveness. And so with people who join our community, they are also a part of a lovely global network where there's a lot of support. If there's funding available, we'll be able to spread that out throughout the communities, and also just connecting people all over the world so that they feel as though they are seen as well as they are heard. No matter the age range, no matter the gender, we are here to help support rising food businesses. And of course, when it comes to creatives, we have this amazing space. Everything here is locally sourced, and we've worked with artisans all across Ghana. And so for creatives that are looking for a safe haven where they can talk about culture, and food is a part of that, that is what Crescendo is here for. And of course, we always have great food, and most importantly, it's quiet. So it's really a beautiful space to just be in. For me, I actually always had this kitchen space idea. I first thought about it in 2015 on a visit to Amsterdam, and then I started seeing these kitchen spaces, like sharing kitchen spaces, or they may be called commissary kitchens, popping up in the US as well as in Europe. And so when I was in between, the back and forth between the United States and Ghana, in particular just the continent, I met a lot of female entrepreneurs who were saying that, hey, I actually have named the product and I can't scale up. There's no kitchen space available for me to rent. And so when I always said to myself, if I got a chance to move back to Ghana after having lived here in 2018, that I would start a commissary kitchen space, because I saw that there was a need. And are there other kitchen spaces similar to this on the continent? Absolutely. I mean, there's a few in Cape Town, in South Africa, in Johannesburg. There's some in Kenya, and they're starting to catch on. But I did not see any in West Africa at the time. So I thought this will be a great opportunity to be able to create a community in the food space, and not for people to feel as though that they're doing it by themselves. We started in 2021, and that was during the pandemic. We were doing workshops. They were actually virtual workshops. And we started to see a small growth, of course, over time. I think a lot of the times people forget that it takes, and even I say this for myself, it takes 5 years for a business to grow and to be successful. And then here in Ghana, sometimes it's even harder because you're dealing with trying to get equipment. You're also working with, culturals. There's different cultural nuances between me being African American and then also somebody being Ghanaian. So that can always cause an issue when it comes to language barriers, right? But since we've opened our brick and mortar, one thing that we always try to reiterate is that we tell people we are not a restaurant. So we have to do that continual refresher of what Crescendo does. And then, of course, making it very understandable that when it comes to doing business in Ghana, not only are you always reminding people what you do, but also knowing what your boundaries are and what your capacity is. I think a lot of the times in the food space, everybody wants to put you into a box. When we first opened, somebody assumed, again, that this was a restaurant because they saw Crescendo Foods. And that's not what we do. We're not a restaurant. Or, having people, we have it so that multiple food businesses can operate at the same time in our space. And so people assume it must be a restaurant. And it's not. It's just for people to be able to be in a space where you see a lot of innovation and collaboration happening on the ground. So when it comes to doing business in Ghana, sometimes that message we try to make sure that message does not get lost and that it always is in the forefront, that we're about innovation, community, and of course, really, the entrepreneurship aspect of what we're doing under one roof when it comes to co-cooking and co-working. It's the same nuances that you get anywhere else, right? As a woman-led enterprise, it's difficult. Funding is always something that worries all entrepreneurs, including myself. And when you think about kind of trying to compare it to other places, a lot of the times people assume, oh, it's much, much easier if I was in, name this country. So to put it more into context, in the United States, 0.34% of Black women entrepreneurs receive funding. That's a very, very small amount. Last year, only 7% of African women founders received funding. And we're not even talking about Ghana, we're talking about across the entire continent. And so that's something that is always an issue, is access to capital, access to finance. We're talking about regulatory. So that's all, and as a woman, it is a lot harder. And then also too, what I've realized that being in this space is that a lot of the times, especially with how I communicate, I'm a little bit more direct in how I say things. And so that doesn't always kind of come across well to my team. And I realize that sometimes I have to spend the time, and we do too, is doing team building where we're actually learning each other, so that my team knows when I say something to not always take it so literally, to know that this is a fun environment, but we're also about doing work, and also not to work people into the ground. So I think too, as a woman, especially as a woman who is not Ghanaian by descent, for me, it can always be a challenge, because sometimes too, as a woman, you want to work with other women in the space, but you always have to worry about, are you actually getting a fair deal or whatever business dealings that you're doing within Ghana, whether that is a woman or a man. Well, one we have to also address, the first thing is probably addressing the access to capital space. So with access to capital, that's a whole dissertation within itself. You have to look at the gender bias. Why are banks not okay with lending to women? Why are they actually having them go through a lot more hoops and hurdles as opposed to getting a loan, compared to a man? And also just being able to talk about, even from a broader perspective, where's the funding going to? And if you look at a lot of the enterprises here, most of them are either backed by, foreigner, and when I'm talking about foreigner, it also is a person who is not a person of color. We're talking about somebody who is white. So a lot of the times that they're getting that funding because, not saying that they don't have a great initiative, but you also have to do a little bit more work when it comes to what is the actual intention of their project. A lot of the organizations that are here, and just in the world, it's not just the continent, but specifically when we're talking about the continent, you have a lot of people who come into these spaces who are trying to save somebody. It's like a savior complex. complex. And so there are plenty of organizations that will throw money at it, at these initiatives as sympathizers, but there really has not been any real impact being done. So I think when it comes to increasing those numbers for women founders, you actually have to take a hard look at the current landscape and being able to identify why there isn't why there is a lack of access to capital. Why is there gender bias? Why is that, why are only, foreign entities that are backed by somebody white getting funding? And I think people have to really understand that it's white supremacy, right? White supremacy, patriarchy, all these things come into play when we're looking at the funding sources. Well, first, there is no other Crescendo. We are the first and only in Ghana as well as in West Africa. And so when you look at the makeup of our space, everyone here has worked in food. We are very food focused. When you look at other co-working spaces that are doing amazing jobs, they're really more so looking at tech, or they're looking at business management or accounting, whatever have you. But we're specifically looking at that nexus between all of these things and food. No one's talking about food safety. No one's talking about food photography, or even exporting, or even talking about food labeling. So that is what they're getting from Crescendo. You're getting that knowledge base, right? You're also getting an opportunity to see innovation at work. We collaborate with a lot of local chefs as well as brands. And of course, we always are about working with women chefs as well. And so for them, when we work with these chefs, we're able to provide them a culinary playground. That's basically what Crescendo is. It's a culinary playground where you're coming in with your ingredients, or for supplying ingredients, depending on the agreement, and you're able to do whatever you want. And you actually have a free audience for people to tell you what they think about your food. And so that is enticing for people who come to use this space. When we have students who come to our Crescendo, especially since we're near Gimpa, Academic City, we're not too far from Legon, the first thing that comes to their minds when they come here is, wow, this place is really, really quiet. And they sit here, and then it's somebody who says they'll be here for 15 minutes, 30 minutes. Next thing you know, they're here for 2 hours. So this is also an environment that feels safe, but also homely. And it lets a lot of people to feel like they're at home. And so you don't have that in Crescendo. We have that in Crescendo. You can't find that in other places where you can get food. You don't have to leave the work, your work spot. You can order food here. And then on top of that, it's a comfortable environment. You're not going to get that anywhere else. Well, one, if you're in the food space, you get a really amazing network to be a part of. It's a community. So you have other food professionals ranging from startups to consultants to me being a food scientist. We know plenty of food scientists, and as well as nutritionists, not only in Ghana, not only in West Africa, but globally. We also have 2 FDA certified commercial kitchen spaces. You don't even need to bring your own. You don't even need to bring equipment. You can just bring your ingredients, come cook, do whatever you need to do, and you go about your business. And then of course we have technical assistance. We offer these amazing programs. So we have programming for up and coming businesses when it looks at how do you do food safety. We train businesses. We also offer fun stuff like cooking classes. So if you're somebody who wants to, as a chef, give a cooking class, you can use our space for that. We have a huge space. If you're a food professional, and let's say you're a food blogger, this is an amazing space to come to as well, because we have a food content creation room. It has a beautiful mural. It's a smaller space, and it allows you to be able to show off your cooking skills if you need to do an online class, or if you just need to be able to take a picture and take pictures of your food. So that's the one thing we love about our space, is that it accommodates everyone. And of course, we have free Wi-Fi, right? We have broadband. And if you're just a creative, this is just an amazing space to come to, where you just need something to just be able to sit outside, which we have an outdoor working space. We have a private office if you're here to create or you need a place to work. And of course, always there's food. We either do baking, we have free coffee or tea. If there's something that you're looking for, we can also just order it. That's what we do. We have so many different partners in the food space that are able to provide that food also in a timely manner. That's the key. So the FDA is called the Food Drug Administration. There's FDAs all over the world. Of course, it's usually modeled after the United States Food and Drug Administration, their FDA. So here in Ghana, if you are trying to sell your food product in a retail space, or if you're trying to have it be exported, it has to receive some type of certification, which is through the FDA or the Ghana Standards Board, and there's a whole bunch, but we're going to focus on the FDA right now. So if you have, let's say, a juice, if you have a juice, you need to, and you want to sell it in Malcolm, you have to have an FDA approved certificate for your particular product. So there's a series of things that you have to do. You have to get your product tested to show that there aren't any harmful chemicals or harmful pathogens or bacteria in your food. You also have to have your paperwork to show that you're registered. And of course, the biggest thing is that when the FDA comes, they want to see your space and see your facility. And if it's not up to par, you cannot get your FDA certificate in order to sell your product into a retail space or wherever you plan to have it landed. So when we were putting things together, and when I thought about this idea of a commercial kitchen space, one of the things that I always heard was that, oh, I can't go through the FDA because one, it's too expensive, because that process is also out of a lot of food businesses' reach. And then the other thing is my venue, my kitchen space may not be up to compliance. So when you come to look at our kitchen space, we are certified by the FDA. So if there is a place for you to produce, you're able to put it onto your label, and you should not have any issues with the FDA, as they know that we provide that service to food businesses. We even have a couple of products here that shows on the back that it's manufactured at Crescendo Foods. And so when you come in, you see these stainless steel tables, and you know that it has been approved by the FDA. So not only does it save you time, and it also saves you money because you may not have the proper equipment, but it also does save you some money as well, right? Because the equipment's already here, and our kitchen has already gone through the process. So that's one less thing that you have to do. And when you fill out your application, instead of writing down where it's manufactured and it's your home address, you can put down Crescendo Foods or whatever information we can provide, and that just helps push your process along, and it makes it a lot faster. Sure. So my advice to other women, especially African women who are trying to start an enterprise on the continent, I would just say you have to have patience with yourself. And it's okay to say, you know what, I'm done. I want to try something else. There's nothing wrong with turning a corner and starting a new chapter. I think a lot of the times we're always taught that we have to keep going, and we're not paying attention to the signs as far as our own mental health. So I always say that, make sure you take care of yourself first. If you're actually trying to physically locate us, we are on Bolt, Yango, as well as Uber. On Uber and Bolt, you can put in Crescendo Foods. We're right in West Legon if you want to know where. If you're using Yango, we are on 5 Pearl Street. So yes, 5 Pearl Street and Kwame Hayek Avenue, 2nd Avenue, they're the same street. So don't worry. And if you come through to West Legon, when you come to Crescendo, you'll see that we have a green sign outside, so we're easy to find. The other thing is you can find us, if you're not using Google Maps or any of the ride shares, you can find us on Instagram, X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. On Facebook and LinkedIn, we're known as Crescendo Foods Ghana. And on X and Instagram, we're known as Crescendo Foods. On Instagram in particular, even though we're known as Crescendo Foods, it's Crescendo_Foods. We're also on WhatsApp. You can always send us a WhatsApp message on 059-392-3603. Again, it's 059-392-3603. And of course, if you're not a WhatsApp person, you can always send us an email. You can also go to our website, and our website is https the semicolon, backslash, Crescendo, spelled CRESCENDOGH for Ghana.com. Again, it's crescendogh.com. And if you want to send us an email, you can find us at hello@crescendogh.com. So all of those channels, you should be able to find us. You could also just Google us, Google Crescendo Foods, and you'll be able to find us right here in West Legon, about 3 minutes from Gimpa campus.